and not want to hear it.
We were poorer than poor.
I was all stinking rich, John, but listen, welcome to Wednesday's edition of Movie News here at MBE. Thank you for joining us once again on our YouTube channel and of course our Twitch stream. I am your co-host, Stephen John McLaughlin, and other co-host is going to pop up in a little moment here, John C. Walsh. We are live and interactive this Wednesday night, John. And I know you had some sound issues last night. I could make out obviously what you were saying, but obviously it sounded like you were pouring bags of dried rice into a sort of big pan next to you. That's what it sounded like. Hailstones or something like that.
Seeing I was Major Tom sitting in his tin can far above the moon. Ground control to Major Tom, your circuit's dead. There's something wrong. Can you hear me, Major Tom? No, we couldn't.
I didn't think it was. I didn't think it was right to clip it, so that's why there's no clips on today's show.
Oh, it was a very good show as well. If I blow my own trumpet.
It was fantastic.
Yep.
Some interesting topics there as well, John, which kind of stifled me for tonight's show, which everyone watching will soon find out. Scraping the bottom of the barrel, possibly.
That's what I do, Steve.
It's all subjective, but yeah, you do.
I pick all the best topics, so it's a nice, easy show for myself. But I don't have the foresight to realise that the very next night I'm also on, and I'm going to have to speak, and there's nothing left.
Well, John, listen, this is, and as you can guess from our thumbnail and our headline, it's all about Top Gun Maverick, and this is coming in from Cinema Blend. Will Top Gun Maverick have to move its release date again? Directed by Joseph Kosinski, the anticipated Top Gun Maverick was one of the handful of titles that were analysed in a new The Hollywood Reporter piece where the trade tried to figure out which blockbusters would have to shift once again because of the vaccine rolled out simply wasn't moving fast enough for large crowds to feel safe heading back to theatres around the world. Top Gun Maverick currently holds a July 2nd, 2021 release date, and wouldn't that be ideal movie to act as a July 4th return to the theatres? Don't know, we don't celebrate it over here, so don't care. Call to action film, but an anonymous studio veteran commented to the trade that the first 2 quarters of this year would continue to be difficult.
Sure thing, Bobby.
Saying, I think everything's substantive between now and the Top Gun Maverick in early July will move. It's a mess. It really is a mess.
It's a steaming mess.
Moved already,
oh my God.
So this reaction is understandable. Studios have been shifting approaches to theatrical releases in the opening frame of this year, with Warner Brothers making the biggest waves. It has announced its unprecedented plan to put major movies on HBO Max as well as theatres on the same day. This approach was viewed as a band-aid though, as the industry waited for theatre chains to be able to open back up safely, but that might not be happening fast enough, John. We, funnily enough, we did the trailer reaction for Top Gun Maverick 2 years ago.
Oh, there's the intro
I know
again.
that. Yeah, it's a very nice logo, that, which is going to be changing soon, I know.
Yeah, when I'm a lazy shit and I'll get my stuff together, it will change.
Okay, but what's your view on this, John? Because we've been talking about all the sort of big films anyway over the past couple of months, being delayed time and time again. We were talking about it last week again. There's going to be a, how can I put it? At some point there's going to be a clusterfuck, really, isn't there, when it comes to the big blockbuster films and their release dates, where everything's just piling up. You know, there is some massive films being released, obviously, on the likes of HBO Max, Wonder Woman 1984, etc. That Tom Hanks one as well, I can't remember the name of it.
The News of the World.
News of the World, yeah.
Yes. Not the
films like that.
shit right.
No, not that. Normally it would be obviously in the theatres, and you would get the theatres being packed out for these type of blockbusters, but not to be.
No.
There's not enough doing that though, and a lot of studios are holding back, and it's going to cause a backlog of movies, and obviously the original slots that were already in place for films that were supposed to be coming out this summer anyway are still holding on to those dates, which means the films that were supposed to come out last year are struggling to find slots, aren't they?
They are, Stephen. And look, it's going to be a real issue for the first 4 or 5 months of this year. I think perhaps June onwards we will see some normality coming back. I think we'll see restrictions starting to fall by the wayside, at least in the United Kingdom. I can't speak for the likes of the United States or other countries. I know here we're vaccinating a hell of a lot of people. We're going to reach that tipping point May, April time.
Yeah.
And we may see theatres opening up. I don't think it will be like pre-pandemic, where we had full houses, 200-300 people sharing a room together without masks. I think it will be more like what we had when we went to see Tenet last, what was it, November? When did we go and see Tenet? October?
It was September, John.
September,
the
was it?
September,
there you
yeah.
go, I've lost the plot. It was a long year. The days and the months were blending into one. So I think it'll be more like that. Yeah, they still are, you're absolutely right. And that'll be fine, Stephen. That'll be fine for the movie theatres. I'll go to myself and give you a little break. I know you want to check things, perhaps, when I'm on the screen. That'll be absolutely fine if these theatres can get their doors open, get bums in seats, even at a reduced sort of volume in the next 45 months, 3 to 4 months, hopefully. It'll be fine for movies that are set to come out at that specific point in the year. But movies prior to that, when is it that Top Gun Maverick is set to come out, incidentally? July 2nd? I think Top Gun Maverick might be fine, Stephen. I don't think it will have to move. Certainly not here. It really does, again, depend on the United States and where they are going to lie in terms of vaccine rollout, take-up, restrictions being lifted in the main sort of areas, the main markets, the United States, Jesus Christ, New York, Chicago, LA, places like that. Will they be opened like we were round about September, October, with theatres doing business? If they're not open, then I can see the studio probably delaying it again, because they're not just going to open it up in Europe and the United Kingdom. The United States are the primary film market in the Western world. They will dictate when this movie releases. So it has a chance, I think. I don't know if it will have to move. They're saying anything up to Top Gun Maverick in early July will move. I think this might have a little chance of sneaking into the theatres. If it has to move, it's absolutely fine. Oh man, look, I says it. I done a list. I done a show not long after the new year. Movies that I would absolutely be happy to wait to go and see in a theatre, even if that meant delaying it into the next calendar year. This would be one of those movies. You have to watch this movie on a big screen. You can't watch this on a streaming service. It's Tom Cruise. It's Top Gun. I admitted it in my top most anticipated movies list. It wasn't in there because I'm not a massive fan of Top Gun, but I will go and watch this movie because it's Tom Cruise. And just the dedication to the craft, the filming and actual jets and stuff like that, it deserves to be seen in a theatre. So hopefully it doesn't have to move. That's what I'd say. Hopefully, but you never know.
That's one of the things about the generation that went to see the original film, was the experience in the cinema of some of these action sequences that you're talking about. And you're absolutely right. That would be missed going to a streaming service. And I'm glad there's still people within studios that think that way. They're not thinking about the money all the time.
Yep. I think Tom Cruise will dictate that as well, Stephen. He's a firm champion of the theatres. You wait to see Tenet in London.
Exactly.
He's not going to be for streaming services.
Right. No, and something tells me, John, when I was reading this earlier, that did spring to mind, Tom Cruise's presence in a theatre, which I think was possibly deliberate on his part.
Yeah.
That was him sending the message to the studio that, I'm going to be out in force with the rest of the public here. I'm going to be watching Tenet the way it's meant to be viewed. This is his message, and this is the way my film should be viewed as well. And he's absolutely right, John. I was never a big fan of Tom Cruise in the 1980s. I was never a big fan of Top Gun either, but I do appreciate the film and its...
You weren't a fan of Risky Business, was it? The one where he's dancing about in his shirt?
Or Cocktail or anything like that. No, not my cup of tea.
Was it Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman?
Rain Man was fantastic, John. Yeah. It was an amazing film. Yeah. And you look at the ones further on in his career, like the likes of Collateral.
Jamie Foxx.
What was that sort of dark one? The Minority Report as well. Another great film.
He's made some great movies.
Fantastic.
He has.
He has, John. And you can say what you want. The Mission Impossible series wouldn't be as successful if it wasn't for Tom Cruise. You know, him reinventing himself for each film that comes out in that franchise, putting his body on the line for some of these action sequences as well. You know, he's not a young guy anymore. You know, and he's still puts us to shame. You know, he's a dedicated worker. You know, and you can say what you want about him. You know, he's always 100% in every film he's in, and I'm looking forward to seeing the film. You know, because I do really want to see where his character is now, where his place is in the world, and obviously the supporting cast as well. It's a great cast. Let's not forget that. But you're right, this film has to be seen in the cinema. It's another one of the ones that, just like James Bond, it has to be seen in the cinema. You cannot put this to streaming service. It would be a crime against humanity.
Stephen, it's such a cool helmet too. The thumbnail's a joke, incidentally, for this show. I may have to go back and change it. It's a calendar. Yeah. Terrible. Calendar with Tom Cruise broodingly looking out at a jet. But I was searching up images and the Maverick helmet, just so cool. So
yeah,
I seen it. The trailers were amazing, Stephen. They looked visceral. They looked really cool. The action and stuff. And as you did say, it's more about that character, where that character is going to be in this juncture of his life and his story. So that's something I think demands to be seen in a theatre, and hopefully it can make it to theatres. I just want you back watching movies again in theatres.
The film, I think that is going to be a big part of the plot as well. His character, where he sits in the world today in 2021. You know.
Yeah.
But listen, we're going to move on to our next topic, and it's all about Deadpool's Colossus actor response to joining the MCU. This is coming in from Cinema Blend once again. Just before I read this little bit of information, John, we talked about this, I think, maybe last week or the week before, when I mentioned we have to consider the characters who already exist in the first two Deadpool films. Where are they going to be in this MCU for Deadpool 3? Now, something that came in, in fact, I'll just read this article, just a little bit of it, John, just to sort of build the picture on how this news came about. But he responded to Collider on Twitter, but Serbian actor Stefan Kapikic, I think that's how you say his name, has played Colossus in both Deadpool movies, using a mixture of voice acting and motion capture to bring the hulking 7-foot X-Man to life. Really, I thought that guy was really made of metal. In many ways, Colossus is the heart of the franchise. It certainly is, and the fans are eager to see him join the MCU proper. Kapikic responded to his news on social media posting, and if you can see that graphic there, you'll see he's just put a little smiley face with the shades on, responding to Collider's good news. Kevin Feige confirms Deadpool 3 will be an MCU movie and will be rated R, like we spoke about last week, but you're going to have to wait a bit to see it. And there's a link there to obviously this story. It's short and sweet, but it looks like Stefan Kapikic is jazzed about joining the MCU with Deadpool 3. After all, the X-Men have been notably missing from the franchise so far. I thought that was a running joke. Why they weren't in it. I actually thought that was quite funny. Colossus
the X-Men, what's that? That's a dirty word. Why not call it X-Women? Hint, hint.
Although exactly how these concepts will be introduced to the shared universe remains a mystery. There would be a big gap there, John, if Colossus wasn't in Deadpool 3. Let's be honest, he has a big presence, and pardon the pun, 7-foot giant, but there's something about him, and the article is right, he is the heart and soul of the story, isn't he? He's the sort of grounded one out of all the collective X-Men. Yeah,
very immature Wade Wilson, running around, throwing F-bombs, killing people, not befitting of superhero. Sort of good superhero work. He's an embarrassment to the X-Force, these mutants, to Charles Xavier, who's always off screen. But we see a snippet, of course, through the doors in Deadpool 2. Finally gets his wish to actually be connected to that X-Men universe. So yes, Stephen, he's almost like the heart and soul of that movie in a sense. Of course, Ryan Reynolds is the heart and soul. I'm talking nonsense, but this guy's he's got a part to play. And for that reason, it'll be very, very interesting indeed to see how they are going to handle this story in Deadpool 3 moving forward, how they are going to handle this transition into the MCU, because it's a difficult balancing act, because Kevin Feige will want to add his own X-Men characters, his own take on those stories. Will he be keen to recycle some of these characters coming over from the Deadpool stories, or will it be perhaps a Deadpool 3 movie with Ryan Reynolds, Wade Wilson, all the similar aesthetics, the R-rated, the swearing, the nonsense, but with a whole new cast coming in around about them. I don't know how they're going to handle it. It's going to be very interesting. I'm just happy to see Ryan coming back first and foremost.
Yeah.
It was a happy little surprise, happy little accident, if you'd like to quote Bob Ross. I like to quote Bob on this show for some reason that I wasn't expecting. So just to get him back is a win for me. To get the R-rated, an extra little cherry on top. If we were to get the likes of Zazie Beetz and Stefan coming back in as well, that'd be an additional surprise. But I wouldn't be against it. I wouldn't be against it. I'd like to see it.
Well, I think it's very easy to do. You know, you keep the cast together. It's a tight cast as well. You've got to remember that. Bring in obviously Cable as well. If obviously Josh Brolin is interested in doing it, which I think he will be. Also, keep that cast together for the third instalment of this series. And all you've got to do is throw in Nick Fury in there at the end.
Yep.
And that connects it to the MCU right away. Or, you know, however it may be.
And Stephen, look, these other side players, I mean, Colossus is an interesting character in the comics, but he's not a huge primary figure in the X-Men. They can keep that character in the MCU and add their own players from the X-Men story in.
The thing is, John, obviously with Colossus, I could see him fitting into the MCU and being the sort of same stature as Korg or someone like that.
Yep.
You know, someone that's got a presence and memorable, but doesn't have to do too much in the film. But I think it would be nice, obviously for the actor as well, who's played the role in the last two films.
Well, Stephen, Deadpool obviously isn't tonally, and obviously the humour and stuff meshes very well with the MCU anyway. Obviously the expletives and the swearing and stuff like that and the nonsense, the violence at times aside, it was the best fit from that Fox X-Men universe to come into the MCU. Yeah. Obviously it's still alive and kicking. There's stories to be told. The other X-Men characters have had their day. It was a shambles. Dark Phoenix at the box office. This has always been a good performer at the box office. It went head to head with I think Solo one year and perhaps Endgame or Infinity War. And it done very well. It was second best performing out of those three movies. So they know they've got the foundations with Ryan Reynolds of a good story, a good character. They can build upon that in the MCU, factor him in, and he's the way he'll bounce off the Avengers in this if he's a part to play in that story. It's going to be absolutely fascinating to see Ryan Reynolds in there. And it gives Josh Brolin the chance to come into the MCU too. That's something he spoke about he'd like to come back in. So I'd like to see Cable. He's a very cool character too. Tragic, stricken sort of character, his wife and his daughter. So I'm looking forward to this to see how they handle it one way or the other.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But John, I'm going to move on to our next topic, and it's Star Wars. And I noticed yesterday or the day before, Star Wars was trending on Twitter. Separate sort of trends. Kylo Ren, you had Finn, you had The Rise of Skywalker in there as well, The Last Jedi. And I was wondering what it was all about. Well, this is part of it anyway, and it's about Star Wars fans are still mad over Finn's story in the sequel trilogy. This came in from Cinema Blend once again, John, and I'm just going to read a little bit of it because it's more about people's opinions on social media. And while Finn had an important part to play in the new Star Wars trilogy, the focus of the movie certainly shifted from Rey and Finn to Rey and Kylo Ren, and a lot of people are upset by that fact. In the end, Adam Driver was really the male lead character of the trilogy as a whole, and fans feel like John Boyega should have had that spot. Now, I'll just read a couple of these social media posts, John. The first one coming in, yes, that one. Kylo Ren is trending.
Cool.
So I just thought I should say that Finn deserved to be the male lead in the sequel trilogy over Kylo Ren. And I'll just scroll down to the next one, John. It's actually John Boyega holding the Stormtrooper helmet.
Cool photo.
I
want one of those helmets.
He's a cool guy.
Yes.
John Boyega's Finn was set up as the male lead and co-protagonist of the sequel trilogy. That's not an option. That's not an opinion. Sorry, that's not a headcanon. That's a literally fact. He was set up to be equal with Rey and Kylo's foil, and we all know why.
That's a literally fact.
That's changed. Yeah. I think possibly this person, maybe English isn't his first language, but John, the point is there though. The point is we've talked about this, and it was very interesting to see it coming back up again. I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. Certainly when John Boyega speaks, it always comes up anyway, and he's always very opinionated and very passionate about Star Wars and his experience, whether that be negative or positive. Now, it's absolutely right. Finn was set up to be the male lead in this new trilogy, and I believe it was going to be the trinity of Finn, Kylo, and Rey. You've got to remember that Oscar Isaac's character was supposed to be killed off in the first film, The Force Awakens. So the dynamics changed when he survived right away. And I think the popularity as well of Adam Driver's performance as Kylo Ren / Ben Solo changed the dynamics as well for the second film. I don't think we can really fault Lucasfilm for the fans sort of the way they took Kylo Ren in.
Yeah. They shouldn't have.
The generation as well, John. Yeah, exactly. The generation as well that's watching these films, we're all up for a romance between obviously Kylo Ren and Rey. What's that called again? Reylo, yeah.
That's them Zoomers for you.
Okay. Yeah.
The shit they talk about millennials. Oh, that was Zoomers, Stephen. That wasn't millennials. I'm not having those shitheads in my generation. It's bad enough I have to be a millennial as it is. I'm embarrassed as it is, Stephen.
Well,
I'm not taking Zoomers in.
I can say that. I'm Generation X, but that's right.
That's the TikTok generation.
Yeah,
I've not been on TikTok.
You've got an account.
I just eat avocado and cry about the 90s and watch Friends.
Yeah, exactly. And get offended by Friends nowadays by Joey's ways, his creepy ways. But John,
that's just balls.
Yeah.
Stephen, did you see the thing about Only Fools? Some young woman went on and watched Only Fools and Horses and was immediately offended. 30 seconds into the first episode, had to switch it off.
Right. Okay.
Apparently, it was racist and stuff like that, and there were things going on. The way they were talking about characters. I think it's 1980s. I don't agree with some of the comments, but it's a thing of its generation's time.
Well, that's it, John. I don't think human race has moved on since then. We've all learnt a lesson somewhere down the line in certain topics and stuff like that, John.
Stephen, look, it was just an accurate representation of an East London guy at that time. It's fact, that's the way they spoke. You can't really criticise the writer for giving us a realistic portrayal of what that was like in those days. But look, Only Fools aside, let's get back to Star Wars, man.
Yeah, John. I mean, do you think there's anyone to blame for this? I think it's just been the way that people have really took to the characters and they've had to shift it. But I mean, they really shouldn't do that. If they had a set plan, which they didn't clearly, where they were taking these characters, then it wouldn't have mattered what the fans liked and what they didn't like, because it would have been getting carried through to the end anyway. Yeah. But it seemed to be a reactionary thing, and I think that's probably where Lucasfilm have failed. Try to please certain fan sects. They certainly did that, I feel, in The Rise of Skywalker, where they were trying to please everyone, and I think everyone came away from it disappointed.
Yeah, absolutely. Stephen, look.
You've got Last Jedi's Rian Johnson. The quote, John, that he said about he doesn't care about some people liking his film. He'd rather have 50% loving it and 50% hating it.
Yeah, it doesn't want 100% of people watching his movie, because I think he thought it would be too beige, too bland an experience. He would rather 50% absolutely sort of fanatically love his work and 50% despise it, because that means he's being on the edge. He's making something, I don't know, dangerous. I can't even think of the word. Something adventurous, edgy, adventurous, and that's the way he wants to make his movies. He doesn't want to be a beige, banal filmmaker, which is fair enough if you're doing independent movies like you've done with Knives Out, Looper, Brick. But when you're dealing with 40 years of heritage, legacy, childhoods, characters who people love, people's actual acting careers, in the sense of Mark Hamill and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's put himself.
It's a different ballgame.
He's put himself before the film, isn't he?
He is. Stephen, look, I agree with this, man. Finn was absolutely wrong. John Boyega was wrong. The guys came out and spoke about his treatment at the hands of Disney. Absolutely destroyed them. Says that it wouldn't have happened to the likes of Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver, and it didn't. They got meaty roles. They got evolution of their characters. I'd argue Daisy Ridley didn't evolve as a character. Her character didn't evolve, Ray. It was a joke character. There was no heroic arc. There was no arc. She was already fully formed in the first movie, and she never really went
through. She bypassed the mind compressor.
She didn't face adversity. She didn't do anything dangerous, really. She gets slapped in the back of the head by Snoke.
Yeah.
she went through no adversity. It was a joke character. So I get what he's saying. She at least get more screen time, and she didn't deserve it because John Boyega most definitely is the best of the younger actors in that movie. He's much better than Kelly Marie Tran, much better than Daisy Ridley. I disagree with the first comment. That's what I will say. Adam Driver absolutely deserved to have a leading role in that franchise, that trilogy. He is by far the standout actor alongside the likes of an Oscar Isaac and a John Boyega. He is probably above them. Adam Driver's immense. You've seen him in Marriage Story. You've seen him in lots of different projects. That TV show, what the hell was it called? Was it Girls or something? I can't recall what it was actually called. But this guy's such a cool dude in real life. He's been in the army. He does charity work. He's a great actor. He deserved his role, and he was a compelling character. Guy. He's a very funny guy. And Stephen, as you did say, there was a clamouring for that character to get more screen time, to be an active presence in the story. He was always going to be anyway. He's Ben Solo. Ben Skywalker.
He was the Vader of it. Exactly. Yeah, he was the Vader of the trilogy, yeah. But
people were wanting it. They were wanting to see him, the connective of the character, despite his despicable act against Han Solo in the first movie, and that's because of the charisma of Adam Driver. Yeah. So I have no issues with him being the main antagonist figure and flip-flopping back at the end. I do have issues with the way John Boyega was treated. The character was set up to be Force sensitive in the promotion of The Force Awakens. He was holding the lightsaber. He was holding his own with it as well. He got a couple of strikes into a Sith or whatever the hell he was. We still don't know what it was. He was a dark side user. It wasn't a Sith. So he was wronged. It was false advertisement. They hinted in the last movie he could be a Jedi again because it was J.J. Abrams and not Rian Johnson, the little bald-headed fool, doing his sort of right-angle turns. So he was wrong. They should have had more, but it's done. It's in the past. It's finished, as they like to say down in Ayrshire here. It's kill it. The Force. What is it? The past. Forget the past. Kill it if you have to. It's done. He's done with it. He's moving off to pastures now. He's going to be a great actor in the future. Daisy, not so much, I don't think. But time will tell.
No, I can't say it.
I'm not holding it against her. I think she's all right in real life. She's decent.
Well, I think she's a very nice person, yeah.
But that's what it is. You can't change it. The character was wrong.
No.
They was wrong. They are right. But it ain't going to change.
John,
I want the whole thing retconned anyway. It's fan fiction.
We could only sort of tidy it up by television series like The Mandalorian. That's the only way it's going to work now. And possibly further down the line, John, we might get a TV series that actually shows the sort of decline of Luke Skywalker's sort of psyche, which then maybe 30 years down the line we might accept the position of the character in the Last Jedi. It was just too jarring, John. A guy that's a figure of hope in Return of the Jedi and then going right into that kind of state of mind was a bit of a...
Stuff,
yeah, it's so jarring,
Did you hear, Stephen, finally, that they could perhaps they could find a way to fit Ben Solo into The Mandalorian at some point? The timelines mesh. He would be alive and of a certain age. They could put him in it. So I don't know if you want to see that. I personally wouldn't. If you're going to do something,
there's been enough cameos drawn with The Mandalorian, I think.
And you can give him his own TV show.
I don't think it's very fair on the guy's name's escaped me now. Who plays The Mandalorian?
Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, Pedro Pascal. I don't think it's very fair on him. I think it was very good to see the likes of Luke Skywalker's appearance in there, Boba Fett and Ahsoka. I think that was enough. For one series and. What was it? 10 episodes, 12 episodes? I can't remember. It was just right. I don't really want to see The Mandalorian being used to introduce new characters. We can maybe get that with the Book of Boba Fett and obviously Ahsoka's
coming out this year
series as well. So I'm not really too fussed. But we're going to move on to Pastures New anyway, John, just like you said, and we're going to be talking about how Netflix helped the White Tiger movie become a reality, John. You reminded me that we reacted to this because it was such a long time ago, and it's coming out this Friday on Netflix. So looking forward to it. When you told me what you said during the reaction, it reminded me what the film was about.
Yeah, I was talking about food portions. I wasn't so concerned with the actual story and poor servant getting struck and stuff like that and getting on a sort of rampage. I was concerned with the size of the food portions they were getting and how that's not befitting of a portion of food. I would never eat that. It was a joke to me. Incredibly ignorant. You'd have to forgive me.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm an ignoramus. Oh, it says I cut a bit out because it was ridiculous. I was going off in an absolute load of shit in the video. But you seen it at the end anyway. I sneaked another comment in because I just couldn't help myself. I've got a strange relationship with food. I love food. That's why I'm 13 stone. Mostly muscle.
That's not strange.
Mostly muscle.
That's a loving relationship you have. But John, this is coming in from ABC News, and it's quite lengthy, John. But I'll try and rattle through this as much as possible because I'm not sure if you've read this article or not. But it's Priyanka Chopra Jonas was scrolling through Twitter a few years ago when she saw a headline that a film adaptation of The White Tiger was in the works. She immediately got on the phone to her agent at her request. Please call the producers and offer her services. At the very least, she wanted to be an executive producer and help use her platform to get the word out. Aravind Adiga's novel about a driver in India who rises to become a successful businessman despite the stratified caste system was an international bestseller and critical darling, winning the Man Booker Prize in 2008. In the film, which hits Netflix this Friday, Jonas not only got that producer credit, but co-stars as well. The book had a profound effect on me, Jonas said. It made me uncomfortable and made me think about a part of the world that we sort of desensitize ourselves to. Yep. People have been trying to get a film adaptation of The White Tiger off the ground for years. Producer Mukul Deora scooped up the film rights a decade ago, but it's safe to say no one had been hoping to make an adaptation as long as Ramin Barani, the 99 Homes director, and Adiga have been friends since their days at Columbia University in the 90s, and he was reading rough drafts of the novel years ago before it was publicised. He's even on the dedication page. It's an epic story that required a lot of financing and money and resources to get it made in India, Barani said. That wasn't so easy when the novel came out. Deora told him it was fated to be, but even with the precedents of films like Slumdog Millionaire, they didn't think one of the traditional studios would make the film at the level they wanted because, as Bahrain said, there is no comic book characters in it, and they are not flying around shooting and killing one another and encouraging us to go to war.
Whatever do you mean?
So they tried Netflix. Now, John, you can read this full article, and anyone that wants to on ABC.
The implication being that you have to have people flying around in superheroes to get a movie made.
abcnews.go.com. Now, the full article's there. It goes right into, obviously, how Netflix picked this up and their appetite for more global stories. Now, we talked about Netflix and their foreign language films. I think they've got a great catalogue. I think they're missing a trick, though, John. I think Amazon have really stepped in and stepped up on their foreign films a lot better. Certainly the Indian market anyway, as we've experienced when we're trying to get our hands on. Yeah, I mean, Netflix has its fair share of Indian cinema, John, but I just think Amazon do it a lot better. You know, I just think they've got more genres in there. It's not just Indian films, you know, all the different sort of regions are in there, you know, and that's something that's an education for us. But Netflix is the perfect studio. I'll call them a studio in this case, John, because this is something that
that's what they are.
Yeah, this is something that when people talk about international film festivals and the snobbery towards Netflix, you've got to appreciate them from the other flip side of the coin. They will take chances that other studios won't take, John.
Mm-hmm. Stephen, look, they have to, because they can't be as rigid as the traditional studios. They can't restrict the type of person that's coming in to make movies and work as an actor in these movies. They don't worry about box office success because they don't even announce the earnings of movies, how they are being viewed and stuff like that, much to the annoyance of the likes of Steven Spielberg, because that's a big part of the Oscars and what deserves buzz and whatnot. Money earned and budgets and stuff like that, that winds up the traditionalists in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So you're right, they have to do things differently, and they give people a chance. They give the likes of Kevin Smith, smaller filmmakers than that again, chances. They allow Nick Cage to go and do his crazy shit, and they have to be commended for it, and they do. They give a lot of up-and-coming directors from different parts of the world a chance too. They showcase a lot of classic Indian experiences on there. We've watched the likes of Bahubali, the conclusion and the beginning. I wouldn't say they're classic in the sense that they are ancient, 60, 70 years old. Classic in the sense that they are already modern day classics in Indian cinema. We watched them, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Balls to the Wall crazy, borderline superhero movie. So, yep, I absolutely agree with what they're saying in here, that it's gave this movie a chance when it perhaps wouldn't have been given a chance, because it's a distinctly different story to what you normally see in cinema these days.
That, yeah.
Cape Crusaders, people shooting things with lasers and destroying buildings, the Hulk bouncing around. This is
I
about
would even
cast.
say the likes of Bahab Ali is a fantasy film. That he's a superhero,
yes.
And I think that's what they're getting at. This is more grounded and organic. This film,
Stephen, I don't see
how
it's
based on a book as well.
I don't see how this movie wouldn't get a theatrical run with another studio though, because it's an interesting concept. It's got a pretty decent cast. Priyanka Jonas Chopra, I think her name is, Chopra Jonas, whatever. She's a decent sized actor, even in Hollywood, let alone in India. And it's an interesting story, as I did. You read it out. It's about caste system, about the discrepancy in society. We've seen that done very well in Korean cinema, using satire and stuff like that. The story's there. The rise of this guy from these slums, if you like. I don't know if he's from the slums, but from a lower caste to being a very successful businessman. That is a rags to riches story, which is done traditionally very well in film throughout the history. We've seen many stories like that. So I don't think Netflix had to come in and save this. I don't think this would have had any issues getting out there, but this is what Netflix do. They go to film festivals, Venice, Cannes, Toronto. What was it, Jaipur? The Shalom, what was that one we reacted to?
Tango Shalom, yeah.
Tango Shalom, it went to the Jaipur Film Festival. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This is
I
what
think
they
it
do.
I think it won an award.
Yeah, it did,
according to Robert Meyer Burnett on Twitter, yeah.
This is what Netflix do. They go to these film festivals, they look for movies that are perhaps slipping through the net of traditional studios, theatrical releases, gobble them up, give them a platform, people watch them, and then they are allowed to build upon that again, because they've not got the noose around the neck of poor financial performance at the box office and stuff. So they have to be commended, Netflix. They get a lot of flack from snobs. They get booed at the Cannes Film Festival, but they give filmmakers a chance. They give film fans a plethora of content to watch when they're stuck in their houses during the pandemic, when the theatres are not open. So I know Spielberg hates them, but I certainly don't. I'm enjoying this new era. Mixed.
John, when we set up Movie Burner Entertainment back in 2017, we were open to all film, whether it be Hollywood blockbusters and independent films. If you go onto our blog on, obviously, our website at movieburnerentertainment.org, we've got a whole array of talented writers there who write about independent films primarily. The odd blockbuster does crop up, but John, it's a way to open up your eyes and see what's out there other than just what's in the sort of box office, if you like. But
not
it's
more
something
so than
we've
myself, Stephen. I'm a pretty good writer, and I wrote reviews of a lot of foreign language movies, so I'm going to give myself a pat on the back.
I think you should.
Not as good as Gianni and Dave and the Belgian maestro and stuff like that. So they're on another level.
Obviously the viewers that we get into our website, John, are reading these articles, and from an insider's sort of point of view, a lot of these films, reading these reviews, I went in obviously and watched some of these films because of how interesting these reviews are. But John, just one final question before we move on to our final topic. It comes out this Friday, The White Tiger. Will you be watching it on Friday or over the weekend?
I'll watch it over the weekend, Stephen. We'll probably batter a review out next week. I
That's a good show, yeah.
My words there. That was like Stephen King. A review. I was like Jonathan Ross here. Crying over you.
It's Ferguson again.
Yeah.
But we'll move on to
our
final topic.
I will watch it over the weekend and review it if you want to.
I think we should, John.
Well,
I think we need to get back into the reviews. We've not been doing them for a while, so.
And I have to get a dedicated background for the reviews.
We are doing WandaVision at the moment, but I don't think there's a new one coming out this week, so we'll have to see what we're doing Friday. But anyway, stay tuned, folks. We're going to talk about our final topic, and it's coming in from Cinema Blend once again. I think this is the first time in a long time, John, we have not went near Screen Rant. I think you covered all their articles yesterday, but
I go to a mixed bag. I always go to. I'm a sucker for punishment. I go to Empire, despite the fact I cannot capture that website on our OBS. It's horrendous.
But this is about Spider-Man 3 set photo reveal. Intriguingly, Mysterio Easter eggs now. If you go into, there is a video there, John. We can't play it obviously for copyright reasons.
Yes.
I noticed your reaction earlier on today got a copyright thing on it for
that was funny, wasn't it?
Tom Holland film, yeah.
Wasn't that funny? Because no one watched it, so don't know why they're copyright striking. You're not going to get any money out. You're not getting any money out of that because no one's watching it.
But
and that is why we don't react to Western movies anymore, because no one watches them.
As seen in set photos and videos shared by Atlanta Filming and at the Holland Clan, propaganda posters featuring Mysterio have been put up. The posters featuring the illusion caster wearing the fishbowl helmet simply say "I believe," while others featuring Quentin Beck's face say those same two words, and Mysterio spoke truth. Interestingly enough, there's also a poster that's partially obscured but seems to read "Citizens to Defend Spidey." John Kempe was talking about this the other day, and
he's always he's always got his finger on the pulse, is John.
Yeah, but he had a good theory as well that he has a feeling, and I'm starting to come around to it as well, and I don't always agree with everything he says, so I'm not a sycophant. You know that as well as anyone, John, when it comes to John Kempe. But like us all,
he knows his shit,
he's got an opinion.
He knows his stuff.
Yeah, but he did come up with an interesting theory that this is something that Marvel have done before. They might not address what happened at the end of Far From Home. You know, the reveal. They might just actually move on from that, and these posters are kind of giving an indication that the public, the general public, are split on what Mysterio claimed.
What he was.
You know, that about Peter Parker. What's your view on this? Do you think this is an interesting way to do it, or do you think this is something that should have been tackled in Spider-Man 3, where we're getting a sort of fugitive Peter Parker? I like the sound of that, but I'm actually coming around to this sort of way of thinking, because I think the fact that with all the rumours of the big cast that's coming in, I don't think they're going to be able to do that type of fugitive film in the one film, if you like, with everyone that's going to be getting involved in this film, if you like.
Well, it depends on how it depends on how they handle it, Stephen. It depends on how the Sinister Six, and it looks like it is going to be a Sinister Six movie, how they come about. Could be that they form a sort of camaraderie, what would be the word? It was like Wayne from Auf Wiedersehen, he used it once, the fraternity. They form a fraternity, him and Barry, and the amazing sort of discussions they used to have on that show. Yeah. The ninja is the highest in the fraternity of martial arts. Just amazing, that TV show. I could speak for hours on that, but look, I digress. Could be that they form a fraternity because they are aware of Peter Parker's identity thanks to J. Jonah James and revealing it at the end of Far From Home. And that is the sort of antagonist for, is that even the right word? I don't know. For them getting after him in this movie. That would be interesting, that everyone's out to get Peter. And then in his moment, when he's on his knees, obviously we get the two other Spider-Man characters coming in to save him, and people coming out from the multiverse. We've got villains coming in and good guys coming in. Depends on how they frame it, but I certainly wouldn't be adverse to them skipping, doing a jump of a year or two. Then he's more mature through what's happened, having his identity revealed. He's had to go on a different path. That'd be interesting too. We've seen that in Star Wars, Stephen. Obviously, it's explored in the Claudia Gray novels for Leia, where it's revealed that she had a lot of shit propaganda against her when she was getting into politics because her father was Darth Vader and stuff like that. People using that against her and twisting it. So it's certainly been done, twisting the truth, little mistruths, to try and shape the view, the public opinion on someone. So it's interesting. We've seen it as well in the Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
Batman tried to twist the role that Superman has. If he's got even an ounce of evil in him, the destruction he could bring to the world. So it's been tackled before. It's very interesting. I wouldn't be adverse to it either way. If they can bring this in as a sort of posthumous, that's the wrong word again, that would mean someone's dead. Well, he is dead, Mysterio's dead. Sort of looking back though, a flashback that may be happening in the past, then dive into the story and it'd be a big bombastic ensemble movie, or if they explore it in the midst of the movie as well. But Stephen, look, the reason I found this interesting too is Quentin Beck. The fact that this guy could be dead and he's still having an impact, he's got a presence within this movie. It's lingering like a bad smell. He's still getting under the skin of Peter Parker. That is so interesting to me.
Mysterio, I always saw though, was the sort of mirror opposite of the Tony Stark influence on Peter Parker. Yeah. Even after he passed away, he still had that influence. I see that in obviously Mysterio. And
Stephen, look, if there's even an ounce of a chance of Jake Gyllenhaal coming back, I say Gyllen because apparently that's the way you say it. It's Swedish, not Gyllen, it's Gyllen. Gyllenhaal. Gyllenhaal. I just think of Scatadoo and Flornadoo, PewDiePie. I've been down a rabbit hole with him a couple of months back. Watched all his, what the hell's that he does? Lewai. Scrata Florna. So I think Gyllenhaal, if there's even an going down a rabbit hole here of him coming back, then I'd be up for it. And if it means they can skew it via this sort of propaganda posters and then he's slinking around in the shadows to make an appearance at some point, I'd be up for that. Mysterio with all of these other Sinister Six characters, that would be an immense movie. But I ain't Kevin Feige. I don't hold the hands to the creative sort of direction of these movies, so time will tell what he has envisaged for this, Stephen. I don't know
indeed.
if you've got anything else to say, Stephen.
No, I'm done.
Well, that's going to round the show up then. What is your first show? having a stroke there. It's going to round the show up. What was your thoughts on the array of topics we touched on? What do you make about Top Gun Maverick perhaps being pushed back once again, further back into the 2021 calendar? Is that something you'd think is possible? Do you think this could sneak into the theatres in July? Maybe you can share your thoughts on your anticipation for that movie in general. Anticipation. You can also talk about some of the other topics we touched upon in the show. Anticipation. Shaken, not stunned. The name's Bond, James Bond. But look, you can comment below if you've got anything to say. Anyway, you can also like the video. Follow us on Twitch if you're watching on there. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube if you want to enable the chance to see us once again doing this 5 days a week, 4 days a week reviews, reactions, everything in between. If you do, you will. But if you don't, then that's fair enough. I'll bid you farewell with a bye.